Getting back to school is no small part of getting back to normal. And yet, in this time of COVID, there's nothing normal or easy about it. School matters. Our cover story is reported by David Pogue.
Open schools! Open schools!
These parents and teachers may look like they're arguing over the reopening of schools this fall.
It's not safe yet. I don't think we have enough testing in place and testing for asymptomatic students.
I can guarantee you that the school will be safer than Walmart, Costco, Reese's, and those other places you may have gone.
But in fact, they all want the same thing. What's best for the kids?
My son has barely had any conversations with other children since March.
The only part they disagree on is what is best for the kids. If the most important thing is our kids' education and social development, there's only one answer.
We believe that schools should be open, but it has to be done safely.
Dr. Sally Goza is a pediatrician and the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
We know that children get more than reading, writing, and arithmetic at school. They get social and emotional development skills. They learn to get along with other children. They get healthy meals. They get good exercise.
Whereas trying to learn at home on a screen has all kinds of problems. Studies show that kids don't learn as well that way. They're more exposed to domestic abuse. Plus, how are parents supposed to work when their young kids are stuck at home? But if what's best for the kids is minimizing their exposure to the COVID virus, then the answer is different. Keep them home.
I don't want to hear that students are sick or they have gotten their parents sick or their grandparents sick.
Deshauna Barker is a math teacher at the Preparatory Academy for Writers in New York City. She's also a parent. The pediatricians and the mental health experts say kids can't stay home for a year looking at the laptop screen. They need to be among other people.
I agree. However, we won't be able to worry about social, emotional issues with our children if they're getting sick or their parents are dying.
Add those details in those pictures as well.
Even if students can keep 6 feet apart in the classrooms, how do they do that in the hallways, or the cafeteria, or on school buses? What about things they touch, like lockers and drinking fountains and computer keyboards? At this moment, about half of U.S. schools plan to begin the semester exclusively online. The other half will welcome students to their school buildings in person, at least part-time. That second group includes the largest public school system in the country, with 1.1 million students and 1,800 schools. Thank you for joining us, Chancellor. Are you getting much sleep these days?
Sleep? What is that? I haven't slept since March.
Richard Carranza is New York City's Chancellor of Schools. Tell us who was involved in crafting the plan.
We've had superintendents, parents, medical professionals, we've had epidemiologists. And when you have that many voices, it's sometimes a little messy, but that's okay.
The resulting plan is for schools to open in September, but to allow enough space for distancing, each school divides its students into 2 or 3 groups who will go to school on alternate days of the week. The remaining days, they'll learn at home. Meanwhile, inside the schools, the city intends to live by the 5 scientific golden rules.
When we speak with our medical experts, they say the number one thing you should be doing is face coverings for all individuals in a school building. We're going to remind students, we're going to continue to make it a game for our youngest students so that they understand and it's fun to wear those face masks. Second one is a lot of sanitizer, a lot of hand washing. Number 3, continuous cleaning. The 4th thing is social distancing. So students will see one-way hallways. And then the 5th thing is ventilation of an indoor space. You have to do all 5 to have the best chance of really negating the possibility of spread.
They're not quite that strict in Spring Hill, Tennessee, where students started school 2 weeks ago, in person, 5 days a week.
Masks are optional. A parent has that option to have their child wear a mask if they choose to wear a mask if they want to, but there is no punishment for those that do not.
Marissa Massey is the principal of Marvin Wright Elementary School. Will they notice any changes to the setup or the routine?
Every child gets a temperature check when they get out of the car and when they get off the bus every day. They'll eat lunch in the cafeteria. We do space them out a little more.
I guess the real nightmare scenario in that situation is when a child gets infected but doesn't show symptoms, and then, because children often don't, and then brings it home to the grandparents.
And that could be a possibility. We just, just like with any other virus that does, you can bring it home to anybody.
You've seen that some schools have opened and a couple have had to backtrack. Does that make you nervous at all?
It doesn't make me nervous that we can't live our lives in fear, and we have to think what's best for us and our kids. If we were to shut down, we could do that and it would be okay.
Now, COVID-19 disproportionately affects people with low incomes, and that's especially true when it comes to reopening the schools. Millions of kids don't have computers or even internet access. How are they supposed to learn at home?
I think you're right, Becca.
Many wealthier families, meanwhile, are forming what are called pandemic pods.
We're forming a pod together. That means we're only going to socialize together. We're not going to socialize outside of our pods.
Jonathan and Sarah Alloy are working parents in San Francisco. They've joined 2 other families whose children will all be attending school remotely. So describe how this works.
We're hiring a tutor not to replace our public school teachers, but to ensure that our kids are paying attention to their public school teachers. They're going to make sure the kids are doing their classwork and homework. They're going to ensure the kids are getting some recess and exercise and having lunch and being safe.
It's all sorts of things, like the kids need snacks at random times. The kids need to be told, okay, Zoom starts in 2 minutes, get ready.
Wow. So can I ask what it costs for the tutor?
We're paying $40 an hour for 4 kids.
Okay, now a lot of people seeing this are going to be saying, oh, great for you, wealthy California executives. What are the rest of us supposed to do?
We are incredibly fortunate that we are able to partner together with other families and collectively afford to hire a tutor. We recognize that is not the case for everyone, and there's definitely some guilt there.
One thing's for sure. This school year won't look like any other, in the US or anywhere else. In Thailand, some students sit in isolation chambers. In Senegal, workers spray returning students with disinfectant. In India, some classes meet outdoors, where the virus very rarely spreads. In Denmark, the students sit, eat, and play on the playground in isolated clusters. But in the United States, every state has different infection rates, and we have no national strategy to guide us. So we're stuck with a menu of terrible choices and no single solution that can work everywhere. So the uncertainties, the disagreements, and the fears remain. If you could address anxious students who happen to be watching this right now, do you have any words of reassurance?
I can tell you, we want nothing more than to see you go back to school.
Teacher Deshauna Barker recommends that New York hold off on reopening the schools until more details have been ironed out.
In this moment, what we really want to see, we want to know that you're safe, that you are safe, and that your family members that you go back home to are going to be safe. Without that, we don't think it's time just yet for you guys to go back.
But Chancellor Carranza says that the schools will be ready.
We are leaving no stone unturned. We are consulting with all of our medical experts. We are more strict than what anyone else has told us to be. I would give my life before we take one of yours. And that's the weight that I carry with me every single day.